And what about bears? So people ask me pretty frequently, have you seen bears? What's your thoughts on how dangerous it is and stuff like that? And bottom line is, if you're trompsing around in the woods, you will eventually see bears. They are, depending on the area, they're pretty plentiful. And it's not just Mowgli that can learn a lot from bears. Bears are really clever creatures. They are highly adaptive. They eat anything, and generally they're pretty well-mannered partners and neighbors in the woods. Bears are usually not going to want to hassle with humans. They'll usually try to avoid them if they can. But, in mid-Atlantic area, around West Virginia and Virginia, for example, Boy Scout camps, places that are, more resort communities where there's not a lot of people, but sometimes there are, and you have encounters with bears. The rule usually for Boy Scout camps is if a bear comes down once looking for food and doesn't find anything particularly interesting, they'll usually not frequent that or come back. If you've got a bunch of Boy Scouts that are leaving food out everywhere, bears are also fairly low effort, lazy animals, so they'll go where it's easy. And if you leave a bunch of food out, you are more likely to see bears where you are. And so, I got a bunch of rock climbing jingly jangly stuff. People are like, oh, I wear a bell. Why don't you wear a bell? I'm like, well, if you're camping in the woods, the most important thing about avoiding not just bears, but generally varmints and critters getting into your food and stuff is to protect it. And in the olden days, 20, 30 years ago, you would put all your stuff in a bag and lift it into a tree, and that was generally the accepted way for protecting your stuff from bears. Bear bag is what it's called. Today, there are special containers and things, but the point is, for a lot of areas in Japan, there are bears. I have seen bears, but usually, they're trompsing through the woods. You see them in the underbrush. You can see them wandering around. And, what a lot of people know is if you try to avoid surprising bears, that's always a good thing. So, some key notes. Yeah, if you feel more comfortable wearing a bell, absolutely wear a bell. Avoid seasons when they're most aggressive. They're hungry in the spring and they're trompsing around. If they've got young, those aren't good times to be encountering bears. But generally, if you're out in the woods and you're practicing common sense, you can sometimes see them climbing trees or foraging or whatever else. But do it, try to read up a little bit, practice your skills. It's just like a lot of stuff in the woods. There's usually people who've made more mistakes than you, and it's best to learn from them.